Hello, friends. Before the Shift From Within podcast was born, I was working with a very good friend of mine on another podcast called Creating Motivation. After my friend decided that podcasts just weren't for her, I recorded several episodes that were never released until now. These conversations may have been recorded some time ago, but the message is just as relevant today. What you're about to hear is one of those unreleased episodes. Happy listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Creating Motivation podcast, the podcast that's designed to help you find the inner motivation you need to have an extraordinary life. Wow, that was really bad. We need to work on that. So, hello, everyone. My name is Rohila, and if you are a new listener to the Creating Motivation podcast, welcome. This is a podcast designed to really dive in a little bit deeper into personal development. So we'll be talking about stuff like subconscious, poverty consciousness, fixed mindset, open mindset, really more of a advanced type of thing. But we're also going to help you find inner motivation. And that's quite different than the other things that are out there when it comes to motivation. If you just do a quick search on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and type in motivation, you're going to find tons of fantastic quotes all about getting yourself motivated. You're going to hear stories about people and what they do. And while that's great, because it does give you that kickstart to really start making a difference in your life, it's all external. For true long-term success, what you need is you need to find some internal motivation. And that can be difficult because what you're doing is you are diving in deep into who you are and really trying to set stuff apart to find out what do you want in life and how do you go about accomplishing those things. So while tools that are out there like Instagram and TikTok are fantastic, lots of great quotes and whatnot, it's not really going to give you the long-term solution that you're looking for. So this podcast is going to help you uncover really what gets you going, and it will help you sustain more of a long-term type of solution for yourself. If you have listened to this podcast before, this is my first time recording by myself back in 2018. That is when this podcast first launched with my co-host at the time, Anna Wall. So Anna decided that this podcast just wasn't for her. No problem. And if you were listening, you are always more than welcome to be a guest or anything else like that. More than welcome to join. So let's dive into this podcast itself. So how did it come to be? For those who are familiar with me, again, my name is Rohila. Personal development is at my core, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it all really started for me about 6 years ago when we started the GYST podcast. That stands for Get Your Together. It's a podcast I just started with myself, Kyle Reed, and Christian Cloud. I realized at the time that I was just having lots of conversations with friends that were centered around personal development. And, a lot of times we would go to lunch or dinner or anything like that. And the conversation just started diving into really what kind of gets us going. And I thought, I'm having these conversations with my friends anyways. Why not just record a podcast around it? So that is what we did. We started the GYST podcast 6 years ago, back in 2015. Wow, that sounds such a long time ago. And at the time, we didn't even know, and you can hear it in the very first episode, we didn't even know if we knew how to turn the microphone on correctly, let alone how to do a podcast. And here it is 6 years later. Lots of changes, lots of people coming in, going out, and now it's myself and my co-host, Glenn Rux. So if you would like to listen to that, it is gystpodcast.com. So again, gystpodcast.com. You can listen to that all across the board, Apple, iTunes, Google, Spotify, all the other podcast aggregators that are out there. So what we do with that podcast is more of intro level type stuff, more of how do we behave? Why do we behave that way? What are some basic changes we can make? So fantastic stuff over there. So if you are new to personal development, that's a great spot. But if you just like to listen to stories about, how do we implement these changes in our lives, we dive in really deep into that one on a personal level. So we'll talk about a subject, but then we talk about how it has affected us personally. So really encourage you guys to go there. So I've been doing that one for the past 6 years. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different. One, I wanted to kind of do something on my own. And I wanted to also have a podcast around personal development that was deeper than the surface level type stuff that GYST was doing. So I decided Creating Motivation is the one that I wanted to start. So about 3 years ago, one of the first things that I was doing was I went to a personal development seminar. And while I was there, that's when I met Anna. And so I asked her if she would like to be a guest on the Creating Motivation podcast. And we recorded an episode and just had really nice chemistry with each other. And we went on to become great friends since. And she, just kind of became a part of it. So the Creating Motivation podcast was myself and Anna. And, that's how that came about. We recorded 22 episodes, all fantastic stuff. It's still out there. And we still get, huge listens all across the world. So that's fantastic. So a little bit about me now. Like I said, personal development is really at the core of who I am. And it started back in elementary school. It was fourth grade, and the teacher, Mrs. Mitchell, brought, I think there were about 5-6 of us together one day and said, we want to put together a school newspaper, a newspaper for the fourth grade, and we want you guys to kind of take charge. I was like, okay. I didn't really think anything of it. So it was a program that met after school, and I remember speaking with one of my friends, Carrie Aldridge, at the time, and I'm looking around, and everyone who was there was an achiever. Someone who got good grades and was kind of ahead of the curve. And so I remember talking to Carrie, and I'm like, wow, like, what am I doing here? And she just gave me this look, and she's like, do you really not know? And I was like, no, what? I mean, I'm fourth grade. I'm barely even know my name at that time. She's like, you were, one of the most, what did she say? She said, you are one of the most kind of forward-thinking kinds of people in our class. Like, of course you would be involved in a project like this. And that was the first time when I think I kind of became aware of how others viewed me. Because at the time, I didn't consider myself anything like that. I mean, I had a couple friends and did okay in school, but I didn't really think there was anything unique about me, something that I was doing differently than other people. And so that was kind of my first eye-awakening moment of maybe there is something different. And so went on to do multiple things around leadership and personal development all throughout high school. Was the president of my high school. And even after that, I was really involved with an organization called VICA, which has since changed its name to Skills USA. And I started the Washington State Alumni Association for that, and just, did that. I went to countless seminars on my own centered around personal development after college. And there was one that I went to in San Francisco, and it was phenomenal. It was a week long, and I come back. And again, the only reason why I was really diving into personal development at the time was just for myself. I wanted to work on my own skills and want to be the best version of me that I could be. So I come back, and one of my friends said, would you, he owned a coffee shop, and said, would you mind talking to my staff one day after work? We'll have a meeting. We'll have everyone here. And if you can just talk to them for, 15, 20 minutes or so about personal development type stuff. And I just, did one of those like, me? Or are you sure you want me? I'd never done anything like that before. I was used to public speaking. Even in high school, I would MC all the assemblies. So right there's about, I think about 12 to 1,300 students that I would speak to. Felt very comfortable. Speaking in front of large groups has never, ever been a challenge for me. It's never been an obstacle. So I said, sure, yeah, I can do that. And so I did my presentation, and I'll dive in more to that presentation on a different episode. But I did my presentation, and I thought it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I tried to squeeze in probably an hour's worth of material in 15 minutes. And, afterwards I just left because, they needed to talk business stuff. And so I just left. And then he gives me a call a couple days later, asks if I can come in. Sure, not a problem. So I go to the coffee shop, and as soon as I come in, like, all the baristas who were there were talking about how they've already started making these changes. My friend pulls me off to the side, and he's like, look, I don't know what you did. Thank you so much. We're seeing huge results. All the baristas feel like their mindset has changed. It's a lot more than just, this is a job, but it's really kind of forward thinking. What can they do to use this as a stepping stone for other things in their life? And it just kind of, it was a little surprising, because again, I thought I did horrible, but here we are doing the episode the speaking event, and it went over very well. And so little by little, that's how my speaking came about. So I started doing more keynote speeches, things like that. And then I started doing larger seminars. So had a lot of friends who were saying, we'd love to maybe gain some insight. So I was like, okay, let's just get some friends together in a hotel room, and not hotel room, but a hotel ballroom, and did my first event. And it was fantastic, especially knowing that I was making a difference in the lives of people that I cared about, my friends. And so right there, Growing Forward Seminars started. And, my fault. That first one was actually done in a library, looking back now. So there was still probably, I think, about 8 people who showed up. It was I think about an hour or two long, just at a library. And so it was still with friends, but that's kind of how it started. So Growing Forward Seminars started in a library. So what is going to make this podcast unique, and what makes myself unique, is I'm really casual. I will talk about deep stuff, and I have no problem being vulnerable. That's a word that's very powerful for me, is vulnerability. Whenever I'm working with someone on a coaching level, one of the first questions I always ask them is, what does the word vulnerable mean to you? And right away, everyone says, oh, vulnerable, that means you're weak. That means you're susceptible to being hurt. All these negative things come when I ask them that. And for me, it's so different now. When I think of the word vulnerable, it's strength. When you are able to express yourself and talk about your fears and talk about the things that you feel are holding you back in life, that's strength. That means you are centered, you are one with yourself. It's not about being susceptible to people hurting you. It's about overcoming the obstacles and being free and open. And so that, to me, is just where the magic is. So yeah, I'm going to talk about stuff that's kind of been holding me back. I'm going to talk about the goods, but I'm also going to really focus on the bads. This is going to be, a place where I can explore my thoughts openly. Maybe there's going to be times when I have epiphanies online, on the episode. And maybe I need to have a programmed button on here that leads to what I play if I have an epiphany. I think something a lot better than this. That's a little too cheesy for me. So I will not be doing that. I will find something better when I'm really on a roll or something like that. I don't know. Let's just have fun with this. But so that's about it for the first episode. Really, I just wanted to welcome everyone, talk about the Creating Motivation podcast and some of the content that you'll hear on here. It is my intent to have this be a weekly show, and it's not just going to be me. I'm going to have various guests on here as well, both in person and on the phone, everyone from just people that I know and friends to interviewing some industry experts. So with that, what I would really encourage everyone to do is listen to some episodes of the GYST podcast. What you're going to find there is a little bit of fun, a little bit of personal development, and a little bit of growth. And we have a great time on that episode or on that podcast. There's, I think, about 260 episodes or so. You don't have to listen to them all, but if you do, that's fantastic. I've had several people who have told me that they've done that. So granted, that was closer to episode 10 rather than 260, but so for the call to action today, I'm going to say gystpodcast.com. If you search for it on your phone, the logo is Glenn and I just sitting on a couch, cartoon versions of us sitting on a couch. So again, gystpodcast.com. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And, even though this is technically episode 23 of the Creating Motivation podcast, I'm going to consider this episode 1. So thank you very much. With that, I bid you all a fond farewell and good luck.